Faster than a fraudulent performance measure, stronger than a misplaced decimal point, able to leap complex compliance requirements at a single bound. It's Super Auditor! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Auditors Save the World, one audit project at a time, where we bring you thrilling tales of daring audits and brave financial reviews. Here, our heroes don't wear capes, but they do wield the power of empirical evidence. Brought to you by the pros at Yellowbook-CPE. In each episode, we interview those legendary auditors who have truly rescued the day. Stay tuned, listeners, because this is one story you won't want to miss. And folks, don't forget to subscribe to our show in your podcast app of choice. And now, here's your host, Lita Hart-Fanta.
In a county where the truth is sometimes buried under pressure and fear, one hero stood unshaken. Meet Charles, the auditor with unbreakable integrity. Faced with threats and intimidation, even when danger lurked around every corner, he refused to back down. Charles told the truth and delivered an honest audit report, no matter the risks. His courage brought light to the shadows and set a new standard for accountability. So how'd he brave the storm? Get ready. Charles is here to share his story of unwavering heroism.
So have you ever been doing an audit and you felt like your life was threatened? This actually happened to me many years ago. Lita, you ever had that happen?
No, I did have to audit at a prison though. So they did warn me when I entered the prison that if someone took me hostage, that they would shoot.
That is a different type of audit, right?
Yeah, like stay at distance from the prisoners, or if they take you captive, you might not make it out of here. That's basically what they told me. Yeah.
These people that I felt threatened by were actually the county commissioners of the county that I was auditing.
Oh, not prisoners.
Yeah. So these are regular, normal elected officials. So quite strange. But this was 25 years ago. And I had started a CPA firm here in Middle Georgia. And I needed the work. So I had this county audit. It was a good fee. So I go over to do the audit. I'm conducting the audit, and somebody comes in my little room where I'm doing my work that day, and they tell me about this illegal transaction between the county commission chairman and his son.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, okay, I'll look into it. So I look into it. Sure enough, it's an illegal transaction. And then also, as I'm doing the audit, I'm looking at the cash flows of the county. You know, you don't run into going concern issues with county governments very often, but this one was very close. So, I'm thinking to myself, I need to report or at least communicate verbally with these elected officials and let them know. So, Lita, as I see the first issue, which was the illegal transaction, you know, you and I have talked about Yellowbook findings before, so I'm thinking we have a non-compliance issue
at least
that I've got to put in the Yellowbook report.
Yeah.
And, of course, you guys, if you haven't learned how to do Yellowbook reporting correctly, go see Lita's information. But
thanks, Charles.
You know, when you've got a non-compliance issue, that's the second part of that Yellowbook report. So I'm thinking I've got to put this in writing. But one thing I always try to do before I put something in writing, and you and I have talked about this before, is I want to verbally have that conversation before I put it in writing.
Right.
And the reason I always think that way is sometimes I can be wrong. Believe it or not, yes, Charles is wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm like, I'm going to have this conversation and I'm going to tell them what I'm going to say. And that way, if I'm wrong, they can say, time out.
Right.
You're wrong.
You misunderstood. Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Oh, yeah.
So I've learned the hard way putting something in writing without having that conversation can really,
damage the relationship.
I can get a lot of egg on my face.
Yeah.
So I also, as a courtesy to the people that you're communicating about, I think they need to know early. So I told the county commission chairman I wanted to meet with him one day. I'll never forget it. We're sitting in this big room, and he's seated to my right, and I'm showing him the documentation for the illegal transaction, and he got real quiet. He's a small guy, he's about my size, but he looks over at me and he says, you do understand that if you report this, you will no longer be the auditor.
Well, all right.
And so I thought, okay.
Yeah.
And, I just started this firm, so I needed the work.
Yes.
And I'm like, that guy just threatened me, with termination.
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't saying, I'll fire you right now. He was saying, I'll fire you when you get done.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him and I said, you do what you've got to do, and I'll do what I've got to do.
Woo, good one, Charles.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Yellowbook-CPE, the heroes behind the jumbo bundle of self-study courses. With a 1-year subscription, you get access to over 170 hours of top-notch CPE content. Dive into thrilling tales of agile, IT auditing, fraud, and internal controls. All courses carry NASBA's quality seal, so you know they've got the superpower of trustworthiness. Just click the link in the description to sign up. And now, back to our story.
Lita, you've probably run into issues before where you feel like,
Yeah.
my integrity's
Integrity.
at issue here. I've got to do what's right. If I do what's right,
Yep.
I'm going to feel some pain.
Yep.
But that's kind of where I was. You ever been through that, Lita?
Oh, totally. Because I've frequently gotten pressure from the auditee not to say anything.
Yep.
Or even my boss. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
I have a CPA license,
Right.
certified public accountant. I'm putting my name on this.
Right.
My reputation is all I ever have to
Right.
sell. And if I compromise that,
Yeah.
then I'm worthless, right? And I'm working for the public.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, if I don't report these kind of things, why are we even doing this audit thing?
Exactly. What's the point of having an audit at all?
Right.
So what do you say to that?
Well, he didn't really say anything. I think he knew I was going to do it regardless. And so then the next day I'm talking to the county administrator. Now, this is a different guy. He was about 6'4", about 250 pounds. At the time, I was probably 145 pounds, about 5'6".
Soaking wet.
And that county administrator got out from behind his desk, came up, and was physically taunting me, I would say.
Oh.
And he said, and we were talking about the cash flow issue, and he said, well, you're not going to say anything about that. And I said, oh, yes, I am. And then he again intimated, we're going to fire you if you do.
Okay.
And I said, okay, you do what you got to do. I'll do what I've got to do. But I felt physically threatened.
Yeah. It's almost like, please fire me.
And then meanwhile, there's all this bizarre communication going on in that county government. People would stop me and say things to me that were just, they said some things to me I cannot say on video, okay?
You mean at you? Like cussed at you? Like they were using the F-bomb at you?
Well, not really the F-bomb, it's just some weird stuff. But I'm collecting these different conversations, and collectively,
all right,
I'm thinking, this is kind of scary.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then 2 or 3 days later, the sheriff of the county, he calls me and he says, I need you to come by my office, just out of the blue.
Oh, no.
So I go to the sheriff's office, And he says, I need to tell you that I believe that your life is in jeopardy.
Oh, what the heck?
And I'm like, this is just, I
Wow.
can't even believe, they didn't teach me this at the University of Georgia when I was in grad school.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you're for real? He says, yes. He said, based on things that I've heard. And then he had the grand jury convened for the county. The grand jury, because of the potential threat to me physically, they convened and they ordered me to take the records of the county.
Oh, gosh.
And they gave me a legal subpoena to go in and take and I didn't ask for this. I didn't want it.
Oh, my gosh.
But I was directed to do that. So
holy cow.
they issue this subpoena, and I go to the county courthouse with a subpoena and the sheriff with me because I wasn't going in without somebody to watch me. So I gathered the physical, and this is back in the day when you didn't have a lot of electronic records. So I'm getting these boxes of records to take to another county.
Wow.
So that I can do that audit.
Wow.
And so, meanwhile, as I'm loading these boxes of documents, I've got the TV cameras rolling and shooting me loading these documents into the back of my truck.
What?
And I can't make this up.
That is insane.
Yes, insane.
And it's just you, because you are the CPA firm.
Right.
It's just you, yourself, and you, right?
I'm the CPA firm.
Oh, my gosh.
So then,
oh, my
to
goodness.
add to this, the local newspaper here in Macon, they call me. They get wind of this, they call me. And they said, okay, well, what's going on? I said, well, I'm doing an audit. And by the way, just as a point for you that watch this, be real careful what you say to a newspaper.
Yep.
Because I just said to the newspaper, I'm doing the audit, and I've told them what I'm going to communicate.
Oh.
And then they call the county commission chairman and the administrator accused me, I'm the auditor, accused me of stealing money from the county.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Deflecting, like projecting what they're doing onto you.
Exactly. And this was
wow.
printed on the front page of the local paper here.
Oh.
And this paper has a pretty wide distribution. So I'm just like, can this get any worse? But, I felt like in terms of my integrity, I was engaged to do the audit. I'm going to do the audit. If I die, I'm going to do this audit.
Wow.
And so I go to a neighboring county and I'll work on the audit for 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
Now, here's one thing I would interject here, because if this happened today, this was 25 years ago, but if this happened today, I probably would remove myself from the audit because of independence issues.
Because you got all emotional about it and the physical threat.
Yes.
Yes.
25, 30 years ago, the independence rules were not as stringent as they are now.
Okay.
We've gotten a lot better about independence. And, at the time, I really didn't even think about the independence issue. I just kept thinking, I've got a job to do and I'm going to do it.
What was the transaction, Charles? What was that transaction that was illegal?
Well, the transaction was that the county bought dirt.
Dirt.
From the county commission's, appropriate, but bought dirt. And it was like $50,000 of dirt.
I see.
That they bought from the county commission chairman's son. He owned some property.
Gotcha.
But you were supposed to bid the transaction. They didn't bid the transaction.
Okay, gotcha.
So if they had bid the transaction and had documented it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Even though it's the commissioner's son, that would be okay, but they didn't bid it.
Because it's a small community.
Yeah.
Was the dirt worth $50,000?
I honestly don't know.
I see. You didn't ask that question.
Yeah,
It was just, you were just looking at the non-compliance that they didn't go out for bid. That's
right.
the only thing you cared about.
Yeah, there's a state law in Georgia that you would
Yeah.
bid that.
All right.
So I go and I do the audit. I finish, I issue the report, and guess what happened?
They fired you.
They fired me.
Yeah.
The day after I issued the report, I got a letter
Right.
saying you're no longer the auditor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, it was a good fee, and I'm a new firm, and so that was hard to suffer that loss.
Did they pay you?
They did pay me.
Wow, that's a big, I'm surprised.
They did pay me. And they actually paid me timely. I mean, I sent a bill and boom, I got paid. I think they just wanted me out of the way.
So what happened to this entity later? So when you did the report, it goes to, is there a Georgia state auditor that looks at that?
Yes, it goes to we have a Department of Audits here in Atlanta.
All right.
So all of the county and city
All right.
reports go there. And of course, the fact this illegal transaction happened was on the front page of the paper, so everybody knew it.
Uh-huh.
And of course, it was in my audit report.
Yeah.
So I had done my job. I'd finished.
Yeah.
Nobody bothered me. I will say I had a lot of sleepless nights.
I bet.
So I'm like, is somebody coming to my house?
Wow. Wow.
So
Like you need a bodyguard or something.
yeah, as small as I am, I need one anyway. So
Now, do you know if the Georgia Audits Department, or did they follow up with this? Did they come down and do an audit themselves?
not that I know of.
No. What was the cash flow issue?
Well, the cash flow issues, they were running out of money. They were spending more money than they had, and they didn't have any cash reserves.
Yeah.
So I did a quick projection, and this is back before
Right.
you had the more detailed going concern standards you have today.
Right.
I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, they're not going to be able to pay their bills 3 months after the end of the year.
Yeah.
And they were basically running on fumes.
Yeah.
So, I left, and then how they survived and paid their bills and whatnot, I don't know, because I kind of checked out after that.
Okay.
But but nobody actually knifed me or anything, so that was a good thing. I got paid, and
Yeah.
my firm went on, and so it was okay.
Wow. That's a big story. And that's so hard because you were all by yourself. There was nobody else that you could talk to about this or
Yes, I mean,
share the burden with.
right.
And your wife was probably saying, I didn't sign up for this. You're not a policeman.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Right. Well, and it's funny you say that because I felt like I needed a badge.
Yeah.
And that was, it's interestingly, that was one of the things that led me to become a certified fraud examiner. And then later on, I wrote a book about
Yeah.
fraud prevention in governments. It was the first book
That's a great book.
in the world that I know of that had been written about fraud prevention in governments.
Yeah, that's a great book.
So I'm geeky enough and weird enough and had these strange stories that
Yeah.
precipitated the writing of that book.
Yeah, you're a wonderful writer.
And then the writing of the book led to me meeting people like you.
Yeah.
So
Well, you're such an excellent writer. You're so clear and so compelling. Taking a financial audit and explaining it in layman's terms
yeah,
and making it interesting is no small feat, and you do it. You're a great storyteller.
you likewise are very good at telling the story
Yeah.
and making hard things understandable. That you and I've talked about that before. That's so important.
Yes.
When you're teaching.
Yes.
So that's my strangest story ever.
That is amazing.
Any additional questions, comments?
Well, this story to me is all about integrity. That statement that you made, you do what you need to do, and I'll do what I have to do.
Right.
That's what it's all about right there.
It is.
Even though you needed it to survive,
Right.
your firm to survive, you did the right thing, even though you were getting negative press and physical threats. And that's the definition of integrity. So I've got to say, bravo.
Well, thank you,
Charles. That is really, really important for all auditors to know. Because if we lose that,
what good are we?
What good are we? What's the point of us? If we, so that's really great.
Yeah.
Excellent story.
And I like what you said. We really work for the public.
Yeah.
Especially when we're doing governmental engagements. We really, really work for the public.
And it's making me think of this one clause in the Yellow Book that says if there's anything that is not significant noncompliance, I don't know if it says significant, but noncompliance and fraud, that we are supposed to make sure that that information gets reported to the oversight body or the grantor.
Right.
So I know the report went to the state auditor.
Right.
So they had it.
Right.
But it almost seems like they also needed a phone call. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
This county,
well,
they threatened my life and yickety, yickety, yick.
Yeah.
And they fired me.
Yeah.
Which is all signs of a client you really don't even want.
Exactly. In retrospect, I'm glad I got fired.
Oh, heck yeah.
At the time you think I need the money, but who wants a job, period?
Right.
Even if you get the money, if you're stressed out and you can't sleep, it's not worth it. You should let go of that client.
Yeah. And that something else bad is going on. You just don't know where it is.
Yeah. My experience has been if there's something going on wrong over here, if there's an integrity issue within, say, a county or a city, there's usually other things you don't know about. That's just an indicator that there's probably other things.
Yes, that's right. That's great. Well, thank you, Charles. That was an excellent story, excellent example of integrity.
Yep.
I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Glad to tell it, and I hope it's encouraging to some of you out there. Some of you are probably going through the same kind of thing right now.
You can call us, and if you're working alone, you can call me. I don't know if you can call Charles.
You can call me.
But you can call me, and we'll talk to you about it. We'll help you through it.
Yep.
Because that's a hard thing to do alone.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
Well, good chatting with you today, and wish everybody well.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, brave listeners, for joining us on this adventure. We appreciate your loyalty. Take a moment to subscribe and share this podcast with all your audit allies. And don't miss out on Yellowbook-CPE's upcoming webinars. Because every superhero needs their training, and Yellowbook-CPE offers continuing education that's relevant, convenient, and as thrilling as the fight for justice. Until next time, audit on!